I have somewhat of a discussion to have here. It also has to do with ethics, but it comes from Hume's Treatise of Human Nature. I've read this part of in this treatise a couple times. It has to do with the is-ought gap, and mostly what this is talking about the current state of affairs and the assumption that oughts or obligations or duty can be derived from the current states of affairs. Now, it is often thought by certain divisions of ethical theory that it's possible to derive certain oughts from current states of being or current states of affairs. And it's kind of, and then Hume comes to the belief that you can't do this. You can't just have a state of affairs and immediately drive an ought from it. I want to just kind of talk about that a little bit. Thinking about a couple examples of states of affairs, and thinking about if there can be states of ought that can be derived from it. Let's say, for example, your friend falls in the hall. For instance, I've used this one a couple times for ethics discussions. Your friend falls down in the hall, drops all their stuff. Let's just say it like this: a person, just any person that you might be an acquaintance, anybody falls in the hall, drops all their stuff, and is having trouble, getting up and picking all this stuff up. This is the current state of affairs. This is the current states of events and states of being. And do you think that an immediate derivation of ought can be derived from this state of being or state of events? Now, my thought is that yes, a situation like that, you have a immediate derivation of ought coming from that. But if you see like somebody drop all their stuff and falls on the ground, and nobody, but I mean, if someone immediately comes to their assistance, then don't worry about it. But if it's been like 1 or 2 seconds after this has happened and nobody's really come to their assistance, then I think that immediate derivation of ought can be had here. There's a immediate ought can be derived from this. This is mostly because I think that Kantian ethics and Rossian ethics and deontology as a whole is the best normative ethical theory, and by most of those, in this current example, you would have to do that. You would have to there would be a immediate derivation of ought here. And I think this is just because you have duties and you have constraints. You have these that you have to honor, pretty much. Let's have another example. Let's say this. Let's say you have a family member who needs a kidney. Is having kidney failure right now, and you are not their blood type. But then you have another couple where the husband is also having kidney failure, and that couple and the wife is also not the blood type of their husband, but you, the wife of your husband, is the same blood type of the other woman's husband, who is also having kidney failure. And then the wife of the other couple is the same blood type as your husband. Then I think it would be easy to exchange kidneys there. Your kidney would go to the other couple's husband, or the other man of the other couple, and her kidney would go to the other woman of the other couple's kidney would go to your husband. So everybody would be fine here. Everybody would get kidney transplants, and everybody would be fine, except you two, the wives of the couple would have a little bit of trouble, a little bit more trouble than you might have had because you only have one kidney. So from this, do you have a immediate derivation of ought here? And I think multiple ethical theories, including consequentialism, as well as deontology, and as well as virtue ethics and and relational ethics, would mean that you have the ought of doing this, even though you're giving your kidney to another man that you don't even know, and it's a very risky process and all this stuff. But there's an ought there to give your kidney to another man that you've never really met before. Consequentialism would give you an ought for this because it would be saving the life of your own husband, even though there's always risks. But and you'd also be saving the life of another man. Deontology would definitely do this, and virtue ethics would, as well as relational ethics would also. So I think there another immediate derivation of ought is had. Let's think about another one. Let's think about the United States and Libya. Muammar Gaddafi is terrorizing his people. I don't know if this is really happening. I'm not really following the Libya story very well. Muammar Gaddafi is killing some of his people. There's humanitarian issues and all this stuff. And a huge, I have a video called "The Moral Obligation is the most powerful country." I talked about this stuff like that. And then the U.S. as probably the most powerful country in the world can help Libya, but should we? And I know we already have, but this is just saying hypothetically, if we go back to April or March or whatever, before a bunch of this stuff happened in Libya specifically, do we have a moral ought immediately derived from this state of affairs to go and help Libya because of humanitarian issues and because we are the most powerful country? See, there, I don't see an immediate moral ought. I don't see that. I mean, even with deontology, even with deontology, I'm sure there's a lot of if many deontological ethicists were given this question, I would say about half of them would say that there is a moral ought there, and half of them would say no, there isn't. So here is a rather similar situation to the other examples I've given, and yet we've come into a problem to where a moral ought is not necessarily immediately derived, because there's issues as to you could be jeopardizing your own. You would not be taking care of your own as much, and there's other issues. But so I think, and then this can be applied to a lot of other. I can probably give more examples about that are like this, where a moral ought would not be derived. So I don't know. This whole question about the is-ought gap, I would not agree entirely with Hume. Hume is saying that no, you can never have a derivation of ought always from you can never have a immediate derivation of ought from a state of being, or a state of affairs. He says never. He says this can never happen. That's why I call it Hume's guillotine. But my thoughts are that it's about half and half. So I don't know what to think about that, because there's not there. I think there is a huge gap here, and there's a huge problem here. This is-ought gap is a huge problem for ethics, because there's many times where there is an immediate derivation of ought from a current state of affairs, and then there are also a ton of times where there isn't, which creates a lot of problem for the question. And this also is something that leads to this is a reason. This whole is-ought gap is a reason why there are moral nihilists. It's a reason, because they think that if you can't always have this is-ought gap in there, then morality is, lesser, and it's kind of a queer type of thing, and it's difficult to uphold. And then there's also it's difficult to hold up deontology. Deontology, in my opinion, is not hard to hold up, but this question here of the is-ought gap makes deontology harder to uphold, because there's more problematic. And finally, I think I haven't talked about naturalism before, but naturalism is a meta-ethical theory, which is saying that I have a better definition up here. This is from G.E. Moore. That is the naturalism is a meta-ethical theory that moral properties can be identified with natural properties, or things being inherent in nature and being inherent in the world. So you're with this naturalism thing, you're having moral properties being identified with natural properties, and with this is-ought gap. With this is-ought gap, you have problems with naturalism too. And as a Kantian ethicist and as a deontological, as a deontologist in ethics, I would also like to eventually uphold naturalism. No, Omnicron777, if you're watching this, you probably like, what the hell are you thinking? How can you think this? But this is just kind of taking it. Some people think that naturalism is just taking deontology and morality and one step further into things being not be able to uphold, and you're holding something that's not tenable at all. But I don't know. This is just a big question that I really like to think about more when thinking about deontology and thinking about all these other things here. And I'm eventually going to talk about G.E. Moore's naturalistic fallacy, and I talk about all these things about naturalism, and I don't know. I would like to talk about this more. If you have any thoughts on this is-ought gap, please tell me below.